President's wife gave me this several years ago when they had that anniversary, I believe, the 75th anniversary of the college. And who was it, Mrs. Hayes or Hawes?
Hawes, Mrs. Hawes.
Well, she and Nona Zaradko were watching from the street, and they wanted me in that parade. And the president's wife rode with her husband at the front of the parade in a fancy car. And then they came around, and I was up here at the motel my folks used to own, and waited for him there. And they came around, and he had a horse and buggy outfit. And we went in the last part of the parade. I rode with the college president in the last part of the parade. I don't have a picture of that.
Oh, okay, for the 75th.
And so when we got up there at the middle of the street there by the toggery, Nona and this president's wife come and give me this sweater.
Oh, I survived.
And it was like, it didn't have this on. And I thought, well, I'm going to change those letters every year. I had it 77 years, and I changed it.
And now it says 85.
This year I had the 5 put on.
Right.
Ellen Harriman or Pat Ventura put on.
Oh, okay. Well, this is Katie Lund. Now I'm interviewing Alta Marie Dunbar at her home at 307 South Colorado. And Alta, you were born Friday, August the 13th, 1897. Right. So you will be 97 this August.
Do you want to know where?
Yeah, it was in Wisconsin,
in Browntown, Greene County, Wisconsin.
Right. Right.
Not too many miles from the Illinois line.
Right. And your parents were Henry Elmer?
My dad was Henry Elmer, and he came from Switzerland. And then my mother was born right there in Browntown.
Oh, okay.
And she lived about a half a mile out on a farm. And Dad his folks got a farm about a half a mile from where that was. And so they were married then in 1892.
Okay, and your dad first came to Gunnison in 1897, the year you were born, didn't he?
And I come to Gunnison in March the 1st, 1909.
1909. But your dad came here earlier to look for gold, is that right? Did your dad come here earlier to look for gold, the year you were born?
Well, he had heard about this gold digging up in Taylor Park in 1897. That's the year I was born.
Yeah, right.
So he and 3 other men from that little town came to Colorado. You hear about the gold rush, and you decide you want to get out there, and they're gonna go out there and find the gold nuggets, on the way around. And there was 4 of them come, and so they came to Taylor Park, and of course it wasn't anything like what they thought it might be, but there was a boom on in Taylor Park of the mines and all. And the other men, the 3 men, didn't stay very long, but my dad liked it. They went back to Wisconsin, the 3 of them did, and my dad stayed. And he worked all that summer up there on a ditch, or up there, I think it was on that Murdy Ditch.
Murdy Ditch, right.
Yes, up in Taylor Park.
Right.
And the man's name was Tom Cunningham, who was digging the ditch. Well, he went broke. And Dad didn't get any money. And I don't know whether you remember this old man. His name was Frank Young, and he run a livery stable here in town. No, you don't, but he was here. And he worked with Dad, and they didn't get their money. And this Mr. Cunningham wanted to give my dad some land down around where the town of Hotchkiss is, but Dad didn't want any land. He liked this part of the country. So he thought, well, he better kind of get some jobs around, and he would get enough money and see the country and to get back to Wisconsin on. And is this the kind of stuff you love?
Yes, it is.
And,
it's exactly the kind of stuff I want.
Then he got jobs around. He worked for Herman Clark's father. Herman Clark's father had the mail route from St. Elmo into Tin Cup, and it came down around Mirror Lake and into Tin Cup. And so he worked for him a while and got some money, and he worked out here at the McAfee Ranch. And he got enough money to come back to Wisconsin. So he always wanted to come back to Colorado. It just suited him, I thought. So then, the year before we really moved out here, he and my older brother came out. And I guess this must have been in 1908 or something like that. But anyway, they came out and they got jobs around, you know, and worked here and there in different places. I think that he worked for this McAfee the last time he was out, and he worked on ranches in hand. And so they come back to Wisconsin then in the fall. And Dad always wanted to come back to Colorado, and he'd seen this country up Taylor because he had been in the tin.
So your dad went back to Wisconsin?
No, he got back. So the next spring, we sold out sack and pack, had a sale, coming to Colorado. We brought what we could bring, and we went up, and we had up Taylor River. We hired a team from this Frank Young's livery stable, you know, and went up there and looked around. And so that's where we're going to homestead. We got a tent, and he got acquainted with a man by the name of Bill Duran, and he had a team. And he helped us get some logs. And we got a tent and lived in a tent until we had to stay in town a little while because there was snow up there yet when it came. And so we, when the ground got there, well, then we built the first cabin. We went to go up there and stayed in the tent.
Right where?
And we built that.
Right where the Taylor and
that is right where
Spring Creek, right?
Spring Creek and Taylor River come together.
Right.
And we built a little old log cabin, and it had 2 bedrooms and a kitchen and a dining room together. Just kind of a lot, the best we could do, you know, for the time. And that's where we started.
What did you think of Gunnison? What did you think of Gunnison when you first came?
My mother, I didn't really have didn't really think about it. I was about almost 12 years. I didn't think much about it. But, you know, we landed in the narrow gauge depot down here, which is by the part of the La Vida Hotel. And we got off of the little narrow gauge train, and of course I had 3 brothers, and they was like me. They didn't say so much either, and we didn't. And there was no sidewalks anywhere, you know, just these boardwalks. And my mother thought it was the worst place she'd ever seen. And she said if there was a train going back to Wisconsin right now, I'd get on it and go back. So that's where we come.
But
so we got some help
right?
with this Duran and Frank Young's teams and all that, and got the first cabin built, you know. And then we had to start clear off. There's nothing but sagebrush, just like Tenderfoot Mountain. It's just sagebrush and rocks. And we didn't have lots of money, and so we had to take things kind of gradually. But we intended to make kind of a little ranch out of it. We had to clean off all that land, you know, the rocks and sagebrush. And my brothers and my mother and I, we all worked with Dad on digging rock and digging sagebrush and getting it to where we could do something with it. And we finally got to buy a team of horses, which we needed to haul off the rocks and all that stuff. Well, we got out here, and of course my older brother was out of school, but we, my 2 younger brothers and myself weren't. So we missed that first year of school. So the next year my mother said, well, these kids are going to school if they got to walk, and walk we did.
To Jack's cabin,
River,
right?
Spring Creek, over to Jack's cabin where the school was, and that's where we got our mail, was at Jack's cabin. Taylor River, its road itself from Elmont up wasn't used a lot at that time. It was used more from Jack's cabin over, but it wasn't kept open in the wintertime. And we had summer school, and we all 3 finally got through the 8th grade. We weren't in the 8th grade at one time, but we got through the 8th grade. And I do know that, and I walked to school, and that we thought it was 5 miles, and when we got cars, it was 6 miles one way. So you see, I walked 12 miles a day to school for 2 years until we could get a horse that we could drive with a little buggy and I finished the 8th grade.
And that was April through November you went to
That
school?
was
You went to school from April to November? The school started every year in April? Started in the spring?
Yes, school started in April and was out in November.
Yeah.
And I finished in November, what was it? I can't remember whether it was November 1913 or 14.
Yeah.
Well, I was, it must have been, let's see, this 1 year. Well, I don't just remember what year it was, but I made my grades. I had to go. And Emma Sarah was a teacher, and Florence Sarah was a teacher 1 year up there. Florence was teacher after that. But when I finished school, it was under Mrs. May McDonald, Mrs. Ottie McDonald. And she lived halfway between Almont and Jack's Cabin.
Oh, okay.
And the house burnt down. And it's a little ranch there, this side of the Jack's Cabin road by the on the Comstock Hill.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know probably about where it was, and it burned. I don't know, Ottie McDonald's lived there. She was our teacher.
So
the year I got there.
Did you get a good education in
And
that
then
school?
about that time, we all worked cleaning, and we bought grass seed and got things going. And just about that time, we would get people coming from Tin Cup. That was kind of a going concern just about that time.
That's right.
And Andy Bauer had the only grocery store up there. And then later, I think the Niederhoods had a store there, or they bought his store. I don't remember which it was. But anyhow, the people, this Andy Bauer, who had the store at that particular time, would make his trips by team to go to Gunnison and back to get supplies. Well, he'd come from Tin Cup to our place one day, stay overnight. He'd go to Gunnison the next day and stay, and then the second day he would come back and stay all night again with his load of groceries for his store. And you know, it just got to be that way. A lot of the prospectors were going along there, and they stopped. And they'd want to stay overnight, and we had to cook for them and get the evening meal and the breakfast for them. And then they'd go on about their business, and then they'd walk back, some of those old time prospectors. Adam, this sheriff's father, I don't know whether he was his father or grandfather, he used to come and stay. He'd walk all the time. He had mines up on Italian Mountain, and it was the same way with others up there. And the Churchills had a ranch in Taylor Park, and they'd come down and stay overnight. Just different ones. The Rulans drove over from Aspen and would stay at our house and come on into Gunnison. He later got to be one of the main teachers here at Gunnison.
Right, Dr. Rulans.
I remember him and Mrs. Rulans.
So you had a ranch, and you had Elmer's Resort,
and that's the way it started. We was going to have a ranch.
Yeah.
And it kind of got that way, and here come the tourists.
Right.
And they wanted to stay, and we built another cabin or two. My oldest brother got to be quite an artist with an ads. And he built nearly all those cabins up there. And then on the inside, he'd hew them with this broadaxe. And they're just as smooth and nice as could be. Have you ever been in some of them he built?
I haven't.
They haven't built too many since then. They built a bunch up just after you cross Spring Creek Bridge on the right. Up next to the hill, they have 5 or 6 cabins and a swimming pool. And those are the ones the Harmels built.
But the
they
rest
were built later. But all the rest of them up there, until these later ones, and the restaurant and the bar, and we started that store that's up there.
Oh, you did?
Yes, we had the store there.
When did you start the store?
And when they got the road into the mail route into Taylor Park, why, we, the tourists would get their mail out. But they started coming, and they'd want to stay a week or two, So we just kept on building cabins, and it developed into a summer resort. That's how we didn't get. We sent back to Wisconsin and brought some brown Swift cattle that my cousins had, and so we got some milk cows around. And my mother churned butter. We sold them milk and butter and cream and like that, cottage cheese. And we just built up our...
Yeah. So you really had a resort. You didn't have a ranch.
Huh?
You really had a resort.
Well, we tried to raise a little hay along with it, but most of it developed
Yeah.
into the resort. That's where we finally wound up with it.
But it's so beautiful right there, too. Such
I
a
don't
beautiful
know whether my battery isn't too good. I don't hear you as good as I ought to. I don't think. Maybe your voice don't carry as good.
My voice probably doesn't. It's probably too high.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, well, then in 1916 you met your husband.
Yes, he came up there from well, of course, he had lived here in town, but he got to be a teamster. And he had been down. He went to the Paradox Valley with Bruce Hartman. When Bruce Hartman went down there, he had worked on the Hartman Ranch in haying, and he had worked for the Adamses. But he got a team of his own, and he went down there with Bruce Hartman, and he hauled ore from, was it Natarita or Nucla? One of those places. No, Paradox. And then he had a Paradox. It was a Paradox was where this vanadium stuff was.
Right.
And Bruce Hartman had that, so Sandy hauled ore for him for a few years. And he, it took him 7 days to make the round trip. He'd bring a load of ore out. He got 2 more horses, or had the other team. He drove a 4-horse team, and I think he rented a team for somebody. But it would take him a week to 7 days to go make this trip from Paradox to Placerville and unload his ore and take a load of supplies back.
Wow.
Well, then the doctor mine got it going up here.
Now, is that gold or?
That was zinc.
Zinc.
Not the zinc as you think of it as a metal, like these tabletops. It's the zinc ore, and from it they made the zinc ointments. Like that.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
And it was kind of a reddish ore. I don't have any of it. I wish I had a sample. If I get up to, I'm going to get a piece of that over there if I can find one around. But he hauled ore up there, and he came and he boarded at our place. We had several cabins built then that we rented to the ore haulers, and then John kept building more cabins.
So that's how you met Sandy.
Yes, and he stayed there. He boarded there. And then in 1918 we got married.
Right. And the first year you still stayed at your parents', is that right? The first year you were married, you lived at the
we lived
resort.
up there at one of the cabins. We stayed up there. And I helped my mother, cook and do all that. We baked bread and we cooked and cooked.
You must have been busy.
We was busy.
Yeah.
And then you had to do all the old work for it, and do the washing and all that. And it wasn't easy.
Yeah. And what about winters? Weren't there some pretty bad winters? Were there some pretty bad winters that you remember when you were up there?
Somewhat.
Winters. Were some of the winters pretty bad?
I guess they were just ordinary winters. We had lots of snow, but there was no roads broke anywhere.
Yeah.
The ore haulers kept them open till snow slides would come down in Spring Creek and fill the road up in different spots with the slides, and then they'd have to quit and wait till spring until the slides melted.
What'd you do?
And then one of the last years we were up there was the year that these 2 boys were killed in a snowslide. I think it was February 1921.
Yeah.
And the 2 boys, and Sandy that was the fellow I married was Sandy Dunbar, Roy Dunbar.
Right.
But anyhow, he got the flu. We had the flu. That was the winter of that epidemic.
Yeah, right.
And Sandy had the flu, and I had it. I didn't have it as bad, but he was quite sick, and he was off with it. We had to have the doctor up there. And he got up there. They had to come, with team and horses and like that. Right. And so this was his first trip up the country that day. And it was around about the 21st of February, as I remember, 20th or 21st. And the day before, it was just snowy, and it just felt like rain. And we got such a big rain. And he was getting better by that time, Sandy was, and he was going to start to go to the mine and get his load of ore. the next morning, but I remember this one day, it was just like it was raining somewhere, and it was warm, and sun wasn't out. And the next day he started out. Well, these two men, this Adrian boy was driving a team for his father, and they had some young man that they just hired from Czechoslovakia, and he was driving the other team of Adrian's. And the other men didn't go up that day, but these three teams did start. And when Sandy got to Sagebrush Park, I don't know whether you know where that is up there, just this side of where the slides were so bad. They had gone through where there should have been some big slides, and they came down later. But this morning, they were going up toward Dead Man Gulch.
I know where that is.
You know where Dead Man is?
I do.
Well, there's a kind of a narrow ledge across there, down to where you make the first turn this side. And it's in that country where and there was a bridge down in the canyon, and that was Snowslide Bridge, called Snowslide Bridge. And that's where the road was at that time. And when they got to a little kind of a park just this side of there, it sounded in like the looks of it. He thought it just looked like it was going to be bad there on that where the snow slides come down. And he turned around and come back. But the other two ahead of him, Adrian Boy and the other teamster, they went on, and this snow slide come down all along there, and it got them in.
Yeah, it was a good thing he turned around.
And killed the two of them. So he was glad he came back. I think he'd have been right in there with him.
Right, yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah. And then you rented a ranch by Alma, did you, south of Alma?
Well, we own that. Well, the boys still own it. That little ranch this side, the other side of Alma. That little place. As you're going up the canyon on the left-hand side. Right. And there's cabins along the along the right side of the road as you go up. And we sold that off for cabins, but we kept all that was under the fence. And the boys still own that. My two sons.
Yeah. So that was your first ranch that you and Sandy
It had been, I don't know, Joe Ball, who, we bought it from Joe Ball, Sandy and I did, and he had lived in Crested Butte, and he had these two cabins down next to the river. And then we had the homestead cabin, that little old cabin there, still standing there. But anyway, this Joe Ball had been superintendent, I think, of the big mine in Crested Butte. But he had that for kind of a summer place, and we bought it. We bought the place from him.
Yeah, and then did you raise cattle?
We had a few cattle then, and then finally we got over into decided we wanted to rent a ranch. So Sandy and I rented the Walter Haymaker Ranch. This side of where the Lost Canyon ranch is.
All right.
That one on the left side of the road as you're going up. I was trying to think who had it now. I don't know who has it. And they have cabins built up around there, some on the hill and some on. So we rented that for 2 years, and then we come down and rented the Del McKee place. And I don't know who lives there now, whether it's I think it was some people from Crested Butte that got it or something. Do you know who lives on that? The first ranch above where the Cunningham School was.
No, I don't know.
And the Cunningham School is moved up onto that ranch now.
Okay.
And who was it? I should know it, but I guess I've forgotten it. I can't
And
say.
did you still had cattle when you were there?
And then we was there, had that ranch rented for 2 years or more, and then we rented the ranch out here on Taylor, or out here on the beach. And then we had it rented 2 years, and then we bought it.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, what year did you buy it?
Ooh, that was about in 1926 or 7.
Oh, okay.
And we bought it in 27 or 28.
Yeah, okay.
And
then had your sons
Elmer
been
was
born?
on what was the Del McKee place, this ranch that was just above the Cunningham School. And Donald was born out of this ranch.
Oh, okay.
And of course Elmer sold his ranch about 3 years ago.
Right.
And Donald won a scholarship to CS CSU. Well, it was the agriculture college when
Right,
he went, and
right.
then it was sent to CSU.
Right.
And he wanted to be a veterinarian, and that's what he is.
Oh, right. And he lives in
And he's still at Gillette. When he finished
Gillette.
school, he went to Gillette.
Oh, Gillette. Oh, okay.
And he's still there.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So, when you were ranching during the Depression, you were ranching in the Gunnison Valley during the Depression? Did
Was we what?
in the 1930s when the Depression came?
Let's see, where were we? Well, no, we was out here
there,
when the
yeah.
Depression came.
Was it real difficult? Was it hard?
Well, it wasn't easy. And this homesteading wasn't easy no
Yeah.
time
Uh-huh.
either. And yet, I don't have any regrets of anything. I just don't.
Yeah. How did you have enough to eat during the Depression?
Yes, we had to we got a garden going, you know, and
Okay.
we raised our garden, and we came down and helped the Joe Smiths out here pick potatoes, or Bert Barden pick up potatoes for all our potatoes, and we built a cellar in the side of the hill, and we raised our vegetables, and we'd go to town, and my mother and father would in the fall and get the staples that you needed, flour and sugar and salt, and then you didn't have to go to town any much in the wintertime.
Yeah. And you
I
could.
do know my dad went to we'd take him over to Jack's cabin and a little later, and he'd get on the train and go to Crested Butte and get some groceries. In between the time the train went up there and turned around and come back, he'd get down to, and then get the team and come on home for something that you might have run out of, but you had to buy enough sugar and flour and your staples, beans and the stuff.
Right, to get you through the winter, huh? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you sell like butter and eggs during the Depression?
Well, we didn't. We had the cows, you know. We could milk cows.
Oh, so you didn't have
milk
to.
the cows, and we had our butter. But we didn't. Well, we never wanted for enough food to eat, but we were taught that we had to eat what was on our plate. Maybe our fare wasn't so good, but we always had enough to eat, such as it was. And there's a lot of things now that when I go to Young and Hart now, if I can't eat all that is dished up to me, I take my little container and I bring it home. I was taught never to waste food.
Right.
And I don't do it.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Now, did you want to know anything more about family or anything?
Sure.
Or
Now, your brother, when your father died.
By then, my brothers took over the ranch, and then my dad died in August the 8th, 1925. And so we run the ranch, and John still was building cabins, and we had quite a business then. And we never did advertise, and we were full all summer long.
Really?
We never advertised. It was by word of mouth. One person to tell another, and we'd get calls from Missouri and just all over.
So it always was a
by word of mouth. And we had people that come up there for 20 years, 30 years.
Did you
In fact, our cabins. One was a Greer cabin. They were from Amarillo. One was a Tipperline cabin. You know, we just named them that way. That's where they came and stayed every summer, a couple of months.
Yeah.
And then there's others that just stayed a week or a few days. And people from around closer, if we had empty cabins, we run them off. But it kept us going. Do the washing and the laundry and do the cleaning. I had clean cabins, and then we cooked for most of them, or cooked for some of them, especially the men that come. They didn't batch; they wanted the meals.
Right.
I baked bread till further orders. I could bake good bread by the time I was 14 years old. I baked bread till I'm black in the face.
Yeah.
And my mother didn't have any yeast. We had this liquid potato water starter. We never used the yeast cake after we got started.
Yeah.
And the more you baked with it, the better your bread was.
Yeah. Do you still bake bread?
No, I don't. I can't knead the bread right now.
Yeah.
I used to make lots of peanut butter rolls for my family every
Uh-huh.
Christmas and along.
Uh-huh.
But I can't knead the bread. Last fall, when I got my vaccination for the flu shot,
Uh-huh.
that new lady up here in Vandy's place gave it to me right on the top of my shoulder, and I can't get my arm up yet to put my dishes in the cupboard. I was sick. I never hurt so bad in my life. And I never heard of anybody giving me a shot there. I wondered at the time.
Right. My goodness.
Am I supposed to stop?
No, go ahead, because this will...
So I can't knead bread this winter, so
Yeah.
I quit baking. I don't do any more cooking. I have to anymore.
Right.
But my mother and all of us worked hard up there.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Probably got up at dawn and worked till dusk, right?
Huh?
You probably got up before dawn and worked till dusk.
We got up early. You had to get up early and get your cows milked.
Mm-hmm.
We turned them off. They'd go up along the highways, and we'd turn them up there in the pasture.
Uh-huh.
And we did raise a little hay there.
Uh-huh.
But it really went into a resort, and it's a nice resort yet.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's one of the
Yeah.
nicest ones.
I do
Well, it's
too.
about the nicest one on Taylor River.
Yeah, it is.
Even if it was ours.
Yes. And when did your brother sell it?
Well, John, let's see. They came down and bought the Costanza Motel up here, the one that, well, it's the one that Meldrum's had.
Oh, right, the Colorado
That-
West. Yeah.
That one where they
Yeah.
have the big tower now.
Yeah,
We
Colorado
bought,
West.
that
yeah.
was the original, I think the first motel that was built in Gunnison.
Oh, yeah.
And two of my brothers come down, I think Bill and, I don't know whether it was John, they bought that motel and I was trying to run it. And then Mother and Joe stayed up at the ranch
Mm-hmm.
and run that. But then it got to be problems, and I wasn't living there anymore.
Right.
But we generally was able to get awfully good help later on at the cabins, to clean
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
We met some awfully nice people.
I bet you did.
And I hear from some of them yet.
Is
They're
that
old
right?
just like
Yeah,
me, but
yeah.
I hear from some of them
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
So, and then when we come to move out there on the ranch, why, there was plenty of work to do out there too.
I bet
I had
there
a big
was.
garden every summer.
Yeah.
Boys helped me with it, and they had to help their dad.
And you raised
Go to
cattle.
school. Huh?
You had cattle.
Yes, we had
Yeah,
cattle.
and
we
hay.
run them up on
Yeah.
Spring Creek.
Yeah.
That's where I got to know the outcults so well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, did you used to go up there to cow camp?
Well, we run cattle up there as long as Sandy and I had any. We run them, and Elmer run them until he sold his ranch.
Yeah.
So he run, and we have a cabin up there. That Boston cabin is ours.
Right.
The one just above the cow camp.
Right.
Between there and the, you've been up there enough to know.
But yeah.
But we don't ever get up there to stay anymore, and I'd be afraid to go up now and stay. When we first went up there wasn't much travel on the roads. But now it's like, I was amazed last summer. Donald brought a trailer, big trailer, well, travel trailer, I guess they called it. And they stayed in that. And so generally they stayed down here with me and drove around. But last summer he brought that travel trailer. So I had his boy stayed with me, Brad, when he come out last summer for my birthday. They all come for my birthday. So anyway, we'd sit outside of that trailer and watch the traffic. And I tell you, there wasn't a half a minute that there wasn't two or three cars coming and going. It was, I never saw anything like it. I won't even drive up the canyon, I'm afraid.
Yeah, because there's
There's too much traffic,
Right.
and those logging trucks,
Wow.
I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
And I think I drove once up the canyon. But anyhow, we got up there every day while they were there.
Yeah.
Brad would drive my car, and
Yeah.
that's how we'd be.
Yeah. Well, you've seen a lot of changes in.
Oh, merciful goodness. When we got off of the train over here at Gunnison that time, when Mother wanted to go back to Wisconsin, there was a, I think of that and I can see it as plain as day. There was a cow path. There was no walks. We went kitty corner. from that Levita Hotel this way and up to where about the Cattleman Inn is now. We went across there was nothing in there. And it was all bare land and just like the cow trail. And on this main street there were wooden walls.
Right. They hadn't even paved Highway 50 yet.
Oh, Highway 50 was a dirt road. Yes. So I don't know.
Yeah, and it was before Taylor Dam and before Blue Mesa Dam.
They built Taylor Dam in 1938 or 39, and we even kept some of them people. They rented a cabin or two from us.
Was that a good thing for them to build that dam?
Well, yes, I think it's been good, and of course it helped control the water for when you needed it and everything. I think. And my brother John had the first boat concession on
the
lake.
Yeah.
And I can remember he wanted us to come up and go out boating. He rented the boats. You know. And he had the first concession. So Mother and my two boys went up. So John got the boat out and one of the boats, and they all went on the boat, and I was scared silly. And I didn't want to, but I thought if Mother and my two boys was going to drown, and my oldest brother, why, I just went on with them. I didn't want to be standing on the bank. So I went out. But I didn't like it because that water was up just about this high from the top of the boat, and I was scared.
Yeah, and it was cold water.
And it was cold. And that was quite a project.
And what about Blue Mesa Dam? The river
that was built since a long time since. I don't know what year that Blue Mesa
64,
Dam.
I think.
But you know what?
Yes, 1964.
64. And did you know Mrs. Alice Slocum?
No.
The mother of the boys?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
Yeah.
Well, she belonged to our little card club. We had a little pinochle club. She was a member of it. So one day she called me and she said, "Can you go?" She had told me she was going to take me fishing. And I thought, I didn't care much about fishing, never did fish. I don't suppose I've been fishing 12 times since I've lived in Colorado. I like to eat them, but I never did fish.
Yeah, me too.
And I know John and I used to go fishing, the boys, but John especially. Before the road to Tin Cup was changed into Taylor Park, you went from our place up to Lotus Creek, and then you followed Lotus Creek.
Right, into Union Park.
In that canyon, and went up through into Union Park.
Yeah, right.
And I went up one summer and stayed with the rider and his wife a week or so. And that's the first time, and they were staying at the cabin in Union Park. That was the cow camp cabin.
Yeah,
and then I went up and stayed with them another time on 4th of July when they were camping up at the pie plant.
Know where that
and
is,
that's the first time and only time I ever saw snow on 4th of July. Emma Umberger, her name was Kubiak, she and I went up and stayed with Mrs. Pressler, it was, little Pressler. And that was the first time I ever saw snow on 4th of July. But it covered the country up there. But we were up there about a week, and we went riding. You know, they had extra horses, and we'd go out riding. And I never will. Did you ever know old Yulie Shear that stayed up at the Forest Hill cabin? And mine up the end of Taylor Park. Well, it's kind of right where you cross the river, Taylor River, going up Taylor River toward Bowman.
Right,
yes,
Dorchester.
You know where the Spring Creek Road is.
Right up by
Well, it's right up
Dorchester.
around that turn where the Forest Hill Mill was.
Right.
And Sandy hauled over from that mine, you know, they concentrated it. And he hauled over from there one winter, but it wasn't as good as the Doctor mine.
That must have been beautiful country up there in those days.
So anyhow, I what I was going to tell you is that one of the trips we took from the pie plant cow camp, there was Emma and I and Mrs. Pressler and her little boy. And so we was going up to Yulie Shear's. I was up at the Forest Hill Mine. There's a place up there where you turn off to go to the Forest Hill Mine after you go by the Forest Hill Mill, if you know where to turn. You go up that mine. So Yulie lived up there. He was kind of taking care of things, I guess. He was an old prospector. I've got a picture of him somewhere. He trapped marten and everything. So we decided we'd go up and see Yulie, and he wasn't at home. But he always left his cabin open, you know. And you always were supposed to go in. We knew him well enough. So we had our lunch, and we went in, and it was one of these great big old enamel bread raisers.
Uh-huh.
With a tin, it was an enamel one, and it had a tin lid on it, just like a great big dish pan.
Right.
You know, on that order.
Yeah, yeah.
And it, so I walks over there, you know, so right, he was a good old housekeeper and everything. He used to be a baker. Walked over there, and that bread raiser was plumb full of raised donuts that he had cut out with a pound coffee can and used a smaller can to cut the hole in the middle. I never saw such luscious looking things.
How did they taste?
Oh, they were good. And I know we knew that we were supposed to sample them.
Right.
And we hadn't been there too long. We was going to stay. And he'd been over to Lily Lake to see about the lilies.
Uh-huh.
And so we all had our dinner, and he was so glad we'd come, and he was so glad he had all these donuts baked, you know. We kind of fixed them for him a little. We ate quite a few.
Yeah.
So the afternoon he took us over to Lily Lake and got out on the lake and got some lilies for us.
Oh. So lilies grew out there on the lake,
Well, lilies,
huh?
have you ever been to that Lily Lake this side of Tin Cup?
No, I haven't.
Just this side of Tin Cup, and it's on the right-hand side of the road just before you go into Tin Cup about. And over on that lake, these yellow lilies grow. And they're great, big, huge things about like this. And they open out in the cup, and that's the only two lakes I know of in this country where those lilies are.
Oh.
And we call that Lily Lake, and this Lily Lake is by Tin Cup. I don't know whether it has another name or not.
Yeah. Oh.
And I knew quite a few of the people in Tin Cup, you know.
Sure.
And they had school up there. That Mrs. Churchill was a teacher in it. And the Neighborhood children went to school there, and they had the grocery store later on. And Frank Carn and his mother lived up there on a homestead. Oh, I knew all those old timers, but they're all gone now.
Yeah. Do you think it was a better life in those days than it is now?
Well, I don't know. I enjoyed it. You didn't know any better.
That's true.
It was the life all of us lived.
Yeah.
And you know, up there we used to, when we lived on Taylor River, we kids went to school. We, my two younger brothers and myself, what were we going to do? And we'd have community dinners over at the Jack's Cabin Schoolhouse. The community would always turn. We always had a big Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner.
Did you have dances too?
And we'd have dances afterwards. You know. It was fun. We didn't want for anything. You know, didn't know any better. That was just the life.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
No. No. And I've done a lot of things since I've moved away from up there.
Yeah. And
just a lot. I started the first girls' 4-H club in Gunnison County.
I didn't realize that.
Yes. And I got their names somewhere. I've had 135 different girls in Gunnison in my club at different times.
Yeah.
I was a leader for 23 years, a 4-H leader. I had nothing but girls in my club. And I had sewing and home furnishings and cooking. But now I am amazed at when I go and see the exhibits that they have here. I had more girls in my club. I had about 15 girls at a time, 12 to 15.
Yeah.
And during the 23 years, I had 135 different girls. And I have their names yet someplace. I don't know what. I got.
And you were active in Rebecca's. You're still active in Rebecca's, right?
And I have belonged to Rebecca's 47 years. And I helped organize the first Extension Homemakers Club, the Home Demonstration Club. We had that here.
Yeah.
And then when, after so many years, some of the younger ones grew up and they worked in town, and that's the way it went, and you kind of dwindled down a
Yeah.
little bit, but
Yeah.
I always had quite a bunch of girls.
Yeah.
But now anymore, they don't have hardly as many girl exhibitors as I had
Yeah.
in their whole 4-H deal. Doing it, they want to be in the livestock
Yeah.
and the
Right. They're
and the
raising
horses
Right.
and the
Right.
cows and
Right.
the fishing
Yeah.
and skiing.
Right.
And you don't get many in 4-H.
Right.
But that was a godsend. And it was
Yes.
our extension club was good.
Right.
And I know one of the first meetings we had quite a few members.
Mhm.
One of the first meetings we had was make an angel food cake, and another one of the very first was knowing how to make cream of tomato soup without it curdling.
Oh, that's a good one too.
That's a good one.
Angel cake is a good one at this altitude.
We had made angel food cake.
That's a hard
But
one.
this
Yeah.
one of the first ones, it might have been the first one. We made cream of tomato soup,
Yeah.
and it didn't curdle.
And also, you've been active in the Democratic Party.
Huh?
You've also been very active in the Democratic Party.
Oh yes, I've been politicking, but I'm afraid I've gone. If my ankle don't get better, I'm afraid I won't do much running around
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
It'll be 8 weeks tomorrow since I sprained my ankle.
Well, I hope it gets better.
I don't know whether it's ever going to go down. You think it will?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been a long
It
time.
just takes a long. It
But
takes
I like
longer
the
when you.
politics.
Mhm.
Yes, but I've enjoyed everything I've ever
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And I got my 50-year pin from Extension Homemakers. It'll be 2 years in June. I went to Sterling to the state convention, and I went to a lot of the conventions. I went to about 34 or 35 until it sort of died down, you know. And times changed, everything
Yeah.
changed, people
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah. Well,
And I cried when they tore out the rails out through our ranch here east of town. I said, I'll never know when to cook my potatoes anymore. I was always should put my potatoes on to cook when that train came in. It was about 11 o'clock, a little bit after, and I better have my potatoes on so they get done for noon.
Yeah.
And so I just cried when they took the potatoes out.
That was too bad too, because that was a nice way to get into the valley.
But and then I belong to Elks Ladies. I am a charter member of Elks Ladies. I belong to that. They organized. I remember that. They organized in 1942, and I was chaplain of that. I went out 2 years ago. This is the second year.
So you were there 50 years.
And I
more than 50
been
years.
in that. And I was chaplain 20 years, and I said that's long enough.
And you're probably the oldest person in the Gunnison Valley. Isn't that right?
I've enjoyed everything I've ever done.
Yeah. Well, Alta, I really appreciate it. This has been really nice.